Tubers, tubettes, crazy people, welcome back to the little channel. Now, just forewarned is forearmed. I got the feeling that this video is going to go on a little longer than normal. So if you're not in the mood to listen to me babble on for any extended period of time and you want to bail out, I fully understand and endorse your decision. But if you want to hang in there with me, here we go. I'm kind of thinking lately because of a statement made to me about 3 or 4 weeks ago by my friend Lawrence about the state of men in America. Over the last 60 or 75 days, however long it's been since I've been back from America, I think myself and or May and myself have met up to maybe 100 different expats, if you will, that are here and new to Dumaguete, new to the Philippines. Some of the encounters have been quick 5-minute, hi, how are you, because we bumped into them at the mall, and other ones have been coffee dates, lunch dates, dinner dates. I've invited some guys over to some gatherings that we've had. And so May and I have thoroughly enjoyed the time that we've been able to spend with people because we always learn something, at least I do. And May gets to meet new people and on it goes. But over the course of all these conversations, I was amazed at the variety of people that we met. There was the usual suspects, if you will, guys like me, my age. They're tired of working, they're retired, they don't want to just sit around the house all day. They're seeking companionship of some sort, and so they decided, after watching YouTube videos from this guy and that guy in Thailand and Vietnam and the Philippines and whatnot, that they would give the Philippines a shot, and here they are, and I have the opportunity to chat with them. The single guys that we've been meeting have been between the ages of about 55 up to about 70. Some guys retired early. Other guys like me waited till they were 62 or older, took their Social Security, took their pension, whatever it was, and have decided that they're going to live out here. My primary driver to move out here in the beginning was economics. I have to tell you, I haven't met very many guys that fit that dynamic. Most of them are pretty well off financially, to be honest with you. Much better prepared than I was. And they too were tired of the job. They were tired of the routine. They were tired of the Groundhog Day. But a lot of them were driven, much more than I was in the beginning, to meet somebody. And I've had the opportunity to talk to them about what's going on in America these days. I know what it was like when I was living there. And it seems to have really snowballed into much deeper chaos than when I was there just 5 short years ago. We've also met a lot of married couples that are out here that have been married for 3 years and 30 years. And they too have raised the kids, bought the house, sold the cars, or gave it to the kids, or whatever the situation was, and they've decided they just want to get out of the States. It's just chaos. The inflation, the bickering, the gender debates, all this and that, they're just being confused by it. And especially the men are flat out confused. They do not know what is right and what is wrong anymore. I remember that I told this story once before, that I once just simply called a coworker honey, and she was half my age. I was 60-something at the time, and she was 20-something or 30-something at the time, and she threatened to take me till HR and have me written up. And, you know, by her kindness, she let me off the hook. And I thought, oh my God, you know, all I did, you know, I'm old school. That's the way we talked back in the day. But she took exception to it. That is nothing compared to what's going on now, according to the guys that I'm talking to. One of the most interesting conversations was with my friend Lawrence. we had an opportunity to spend not just one day together, we had the opportunity to spend 3 and 4 different occasions together. He was staying at a hotel there on the boulevard. He invited May to come down. He said, I would like to treat you and May to a room here at the hotel, and just because I want to, give you guys a staycation. You're not obligated to hang out with me or anything like that. And we felt weird about it, but he insisted. He said, no, I really want to do it. I can afford it. Don't sweat it. Just do it. So we did. We took the opportunity, and May and I had a little staycation down at a hotel on the boulevard. And it also gave me an opportunity in the proximity to Lawrence to have some conversations with him. Dinner, lunch, coffee, nothing, just hanging out and talking. And we were able to get to a much deeper level than the usual 1-hour coffee clutch, where we're just kind of finding out where you're from, what do you do, why did you come here, etc., etc. We had gotten past all that and started getting into a much deeper level. The one thing I regret is that Lawrence made this one profound statement to me 10 minutes before he had to get on the shuttle bus to get back to the airport because he was going back home. He said, you know what, when it comes to the romance aspect of everything out here, Paul, he says, I think what it is that appeals to me about the Philippines is I like the feeling I get if I can rescue a woman. And that just resonated with me. That hit at my core. And I realized that he had verbalized one of the things that appeals so much to me also here in the Philippines, that the man gets to actually be the man. And I think that that's been slowly over the last 50 years, the male-female roles, if you will, have been slowly eroded like water rolling over rocks. And then in the last 10 years or so, and I think it kick-started in the 60s and the 70s, and it's really snowballed, especially in the last 3 or 4 years, to where the roles are just completely discombobulated. I was watching the news, and I actually heard a newscaster refer to a pregnant woman as a pregnant person. And I said, what? I couldn't believe my ears. This guy said, yes, so-and-so here, a pregnant person, is now, and he went off on a little story about her. And I thought, is that really what it's come to? And as I talked to more guys and more guys, they verified and validated, Paul, it's off the hook. I just feel that it's etched in a man's DNA that for thousands of years that men have always been, and I think it's the normal course, men have been the providers, and they've been the protectors, and they've been the decision makers of the household. Now that sounds like, what the old chauvinist pig thing, but let me give you my spin on that. Up until recently, that was what men did. They provided. Either they went out and hunted it and killed it and brought it home, and the wife would prepare it, or the woman would prepare it, and it's a pretty good deal for the woman. They would protect them. There were a lot of dangers back in the day. That has dissipated, of course, with the advent of 911 and mace cans. But men still feel inside, I know I do, the need to take that bullet. I mean, if there is the proverbial intruder broke into the home, I know that I would want to instinctively shelter my wife, my girlfriend, my children behind me. I want to protect them. That's just ingrained in me, and I think it's ingrained in all men. And I also want to feel that I make the decision, the final decision of the home. Why is that? Well, if you look at it logically, a lot of decisions are tough. I can tell you, I won't share them with you specifically, but I can tell you there have been some heartbreaking, gut-wrenching decisions that I have had to make during my married life, what with the kids or the parents or the finances or the job or the move, and I felt the need to take that burden. I was denied that opportunity in America. I was denied to make the decision. Oh no, it had to be discussed, and she needed to put her input in. And in fact, if she disagreed with me, she was just going to hound me until I did agree with her. And that, my friend, was not a fun time, especially when I knew that I was right. So not only did we have the problem, but now we've got all this dissension amongst ourselves. And I've asked other guys about this, and they've said, yeah, I've experienced the exact same thing, Paul. They will not allow me to take on the role of making the tough decisions. Why is that? I mean, if there's a nasty, ugly, hard decision to make, who wants to take that burden on? If a man takes it on, he's protecting the woman from having to do it. He's providing for her. He's providing her shelter from the guilt or the shame or the anguish of having to make that lousy, crappy decision. And she can, if the decision's wrong, she just gets to fade it off on him. And if the decision is right, she gets to ride along on the coattails and reap the benefits from it. As far as providing, well, that was, just the norm forever and a day. But then back in the 60s and the 70s, it began to get a cultural change in America, especially, I think, where women were encouraged to go to school, go to college, get a career, get a job, break the glass ceiling, go up in the company. Nothing wrong with that, but it does diminish the role of the man. Like it or not, it does. Very hard to have a relationship where the man's providing when there's a dual income. Now it's not the man doing it, it's them doing it. In many cases, she's making more than he is. He again feels possibly diminished by that. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't go out and work and get a career and try to do that, but I do think it's producing a lot of lonely 40-year-old, 50-year-old women, because the men, at the end of the day, are not necessarily intimidated by it, but they do feel diminished in their capacity as being what we were born to be. Again, it's in our souls, it's in our nature, it's in our blood, it's in our DNA. That's what we do, okay? So, that being said, after Lawrence told me that, I reflected back on all the dissension and whatnot. The guys that I've talked to here have reinforced that. And now we come here to the Philippines. And I'm meeting these guys, and most of them have taken what I think is a very logical course. They've watched a ton of YouTube videos. They've researched it to the end, and they are taking their time. They are not rushing in. They are simply getting here. They're getting acclimated. I would say that out of 100 guys, maybe 15% just don't like it. It's just not for them. They stay here for a couple of 3 weeks. They stay here for a month and a half. They go to Cebu. They go here. They come to Dumaguete. And I've chatted with them, and they said, you know what, bro? I thought this was going to be for me, but I can't take the heat. I can't take the congestion. I don't like the lack of infrastructure or the internet or the brownouts. It's just not my cup of tea. And I say, well, good on you. I'm proud of you that you gave it a shot. Are you glad that you gave it a try? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. If I hadn't have tried, I would never have known. But now I know it's not for me. And I commend them. I mean, they know what they want. And this isn't it. And there's no shame in that. I would also say that 85% of the guys that I ask that question to say, yeah, not only is it what I want, but it's what I want and more. I am finding that I'm enjoying the challenge of trying to find a place. It's not easy, but it's still cool. I'm happy with the prices that I'm finding. It's kind of weird trying to drive a scooter. I don't know if I should buy a car. They're in this, like I was when I first got here, in this chaotic state of confusion, but they're finding a laugh and a grin out of it. They're making automatically, they're making friends. They've met up with me. I've introduced them with other guys. Other guys have met them. They're moving into apartments that have other foreigners in them. For the first time in maybe 15 years, they've actually got guys that they can talk to on a daily basis. And they haven't done that. All they ever did was work, come home, and sit around and look at the furniture that they bought 15 years ago that's now out of style. They've been sitting on the same seat cushion that they've been farting into while they watch Matlock reruns. I don't know. And they're like, enough is enough already. And they came out here and they totally dug it. They too are looking for that connection. Not one of them hit the definition of what is such a popular notion about older men coming out to Asia, not just the Philippines, but Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, etc., that we're all a bunch of dirty old men looking to find some young 18-year-old girl so we can have our way with them. Let me just tell you, that ain't the way it is. Of course, there is a small percentage of guys that are like that. I got news for you. They're in your country too. They're doing the exact same thing back home in America. They're out here doing it. They're in Thailand doing it. But they do not make up the majority. The majority of the guys that are of a certain age, for one thing, their libido is dropped. They're more into affection and companionship. Sex isn't off of the table at all. But it's not their driver anymore like it was when they were 20 or 30. They are simply looking for some peace of mind, non-conflictual relationship where they find somebody that is supportive and not combative. One radical example I have to share with you. This is a train wreck. As I said, most of the guys are taking their time and they're slowing down. They're setting up shop. They're getting themselves organized. They may have met a girl here or there, but it's not their focus right now. They want to set up. They want to get their feet on the ground. They want to get organized. They want to see some things. And then once that's done, maybe then they'll move it to the next level if possible. And neither am I. It took me 3 years, I think, to meet Baby May. But that being said, I did encounter one guy that I have to tell you about. And did I mention train wreck? I was just finishing up a coffee date, if you will, with another expat. We had just finished at Tom Tom's Coffee on the boulevard. And I went outside after, and it was over. So he took off, and May had come with me, but she had skittered off after about 15 minutes because she gets bored. Just me and another guy talking. She's got nothing to do. So she said, hey, can I just go out? I'm going to go, look for something somewhere. I said, yeah, sure. I'll text you when I'm done. So May took off. And so after the gentleman that I was talking to left, I did send May a text. I said, hey, I'm still here at Tom Tom's. If you want to come back, we'll take off and go boogaloo and do something else. I went outside to smoke a cigarette. I know I shouldn't smoke. Thank you guys. I appreciate your concern. I really do. Anyway, I went outside to have a smoke. And what happens? But here comes this guy. And this guy is no less than a solid 350. And he's got this woman on the back of his scooter or bike. And he says, "Hey, old dog, I was just driving by and I wanted to say hi." I said, "Great." So we never went inside or anything. We just kind of stood outside. He got off the bike and I forget his name. And he introduced me to his girl, and I forgot her name. But I looked at her. I remember looking at her. And trust me, I don't pretend to be any expert on any of this stuff. But after 5 years, I think I have acquired some local knowledge. And I gave this woman kind of the once over, and I thought to myself, yeah, this is not her first rodeo. And then I looked at him and I said, "But it sure is his." And he was just exuberant. He was actually red in the face. He was like saying, "Oh, man," he says, "you know what, man, I've been watching your channel for all this time, and blah, 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 blah. And I had planned, I'm here in Dumagetti, and I had planned to move here." And I said, "What do you mean you had planned to move here? You're not moving here?" He goes, "Well, no." He says, "I landed in Cebu, and wouldn't you know it, I was staying there a couple nights before I came here. And what do you know? I met, I forget her name, so-and-so over here." And he says, "I got to tell you, it's love at first sight." And I said, "Oh." And he says, "Yeah." He says, "What I was going to move here to Dumagetti, but since I've met her, I've changed my plans because we've been talking. And what we're going to do is we're going to stay here in Dumagetti for 3 or 4 days, and then we're going to go do some island hopping because she knows of some really cool resorts." And I thought, I'll bet she does. I'll bet she's been there a couple, 3 times. It's just me being judgmental. I apologize, but I think it's true. Anyway, and then he went on to say, "And we're going to then move to not Cebu, but some other place around Cebu, I guess, where, guess what? Her family lives, and it just so happens that there's a plot of land for sale really cheap, a really good deal right next to her family. So we're going to go there, and I'm going to buy that land, and I'm going to build us a house, and we are going to," he didn't say this, but I thought to myself, "live happily ever after," right? And the whole time that he was telling me this story, I was engaged with him, but I would turn and I would look at the woman, and every time I made eye contact with her, she put her head down. Because I think that she knew that I knew what was really going on here. And so he came, and about this, though, he's going through all this, and then he was going on about the channel and what he felt he had learned and this and that and the other. And he was kind of looking for my endorsement, I guess, of his decision, which I didn't give him, but who am I to tell him not to do it? It's his life, right? And about this time, here comes little old May, comes beeping up and up with some little treasure that she had found while I was having coffee. And I said, "Hey, May, come over here and meet," I forget his name, and meet his girlfriend, I forget her name. And so immediately the girl and May went into chicka-chicka mode, they're talking 300 miles an hour, and him and I kind of wrapped it up. And we spent about 5 more minutes there on the boulevard, and then I said, "Well, boss," I said, "May and we got things to do." And he says, "Yeah, I dig it." He says, "You know what, man, maybe I'll come back to Dumagetti and you and I can hang out." So I think that would be great. I would love to see you again. I would really love it after you've gotten yourself settled in for you to get a hold of me, because I'd like to see how that's going. And I wish you luck. I wish you well. And so this woman got back on the scooter and off they went. So I asked May, I says, what was your impression of this woman after she left? And I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was not so good. And I got to reflecting back on why this guy did what he did. And it turns out in my mind that he's just the poster child of the guys that are like me, like the guys that I've been meeting, possibly like you right now, that is just, in the States, unhappy, taking a beating, knowing that the chance for romance is nil. If you did meet somebody, you probably wouldn't be that attracted to them. If you were attracted to them and you met them, you wouldn't be able to provide, you wouldn't be able to protect, you wouldn't be able to make decisions. Speaking of decisions, I got to channel Led Zeppelin here for a minute, because the very first time I asked a female that I knew what she wanted to do, she said 3 words to me that I'd never heard before. This was when I first arrived. She said, "Up to you." And I was dazed and confused. So I honestly, she threw that ball in my court, and I didn't know how to juggle it. I didn't know how to handle it. It had always been a big discussion before. It had always been a give and a take. And if I'd said, what's the plan, I would have got an earful. But this young lady just said, "Up to you." I've grown used to that saying out here. May says it to me damn near every time I ask her, "What do you want to do?" And she'll say, "Well, it's up to you." Maybe a handful of times I said, "Hey, May, what's the plan today? What's the program? What do you want to do?" And she has made plans. She's gotten with a girlfriend or a sister, and she's saying, "Well, if it's okay with you, I'd like to do this with Jennifer. I'd like to go see my sister, or we're going to do a vlog, and we're going to go to the river, and I know you don't like going those places, and blah, 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 blah." Maybe she just needs to get away from me for a day. I don't know. But I've never debated it with her about it. And so, I don't know. If you're watching this video and you're not here, I don't know what, I've always used America as the example because that's where I'm from. I can't speak about Australia or the UK or whatever country you may be viewing this from. But I'm not saying that the Philippines is the end-all, be-all to all of your problems. There are many, many challenges that are out here. Remember the 15% that I mentioned earlier. It's not for everybody. There's a lot of nuances here. I've made videos about them. There are things that are sometimes beyond your control that can be frustrating. But if you're like me at all, my friend, if you think that, you're interested still in having a significant other in your life, someone that you can lean on and someone that can lean on you, someone that can look up to you for guidance, for protection, for provisions, to be the white knight on occasion and to make decisions, then maybe it's something that you can consider. I certainly would never, ever tell you what you should do. But I will tell you this, that at the end of the day, when it comes to making the decision about whether or not you should move here or Vietnam or Thailand or anywhere else to get out of the rut that you're in, it really is up to you. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video.